Why do certain truths feel undeniable long before we can explain or justify them? This question highlights a tension at the center of modern epistemology. We are often taught that knowledge precedes conviction. First you gather evidence, then you decide what is true, and only afterward do feelings follow. Rational justification is treated as the primary route to certainty. Yet lived experience frequently contradicts this sequence. Many people report knowing that something is right or wrong before they can articulate reasons. Moral violations are often felt immediately. Trust or distrust can arise before evidence is consciously weighed. Decisions sometimes feel settled long before analysis is complete. This suggests that two different modes of knowing are involved. One is precognitive recognition, a felt sense that precedes reasoning. The other is conceptual knowledge, which organizes, explains, and defends what has already been recognized. Ibn Arabi argues that truth is first recognized at the level of being and perception, and only later known conceptually. Modern education and culture often encourage distrust of intuition and embodied knowing. People are taught to rely primarily on analysis, data, and explicit reasoning. While these tools are essential, over-reliance on them can produce unintended consequences. Psychologically, excessive analysis often leads to indecision, anxiety, and disconnection from inner certainty. People may overthink decisions, delay commitment, and seek constant external validation. Confidence becomes dependent on approval rather than alignment. From a cognitive science perspective, this reflects the dominance of analytical cognition over effective and embodied processing. The mind prioritizes explicit reasoning while discounting nonverbal signals. Neuroscience complicates this picture. Research consistently shows that emotional and somatic signals arise before conscious reasoning. This phenomenon is often described as affective primacy. The core problem is not the use of reason, but the dismissal of felt recognition. When felt truth is ignored, cognition becomes detached from lived reality. Ibn Arabi reframes truth as something that first appears to awareness before it becomes an object of thought. Ibn Arabi was not a critic of reason, nor did he promote irrationality. He was a metaphysician of knowing, deeply concerned with how truth becomes evident to the human being. His work distinguishes different modes of knowledge without collapsing them into one. A central distinction in his epistemology is between recognition, often described as Kashf or Dhawq, and discursive knowledge, or ILM. Recognition refers to direct disclosure, an immediate awareness that does not depend on inference. Knowledge refers to conceptual understanding, explanation, and proof. The key premise is that truth discloses itself directly to awareness before it is conceptualized. Conceptual knowledge organizes, stabilizes, and communicates truth, but it does not generate it. This is a temporal and structural distinction, not a rejection of reason. Modern thought often equates truth with proof. Ibn Arabi locates truth in prior disclosure. Proof comes later, serving what has already been recognized. The first core teaching follows directly from this framework. Recognition precedes explanation. One does not reason one's way into truth and then feel convinced. Rather, truth is recognized, and reasoning follows. Ibn Arabi's logic is straightforward. If truth depended on reasoning to exist, it would vanish whenever reasoning failed. Yet truth often persists even when arguments are incomplete. Reason functions as articulation, not origin. A familiar real-world illustration comes from moral intuition. When witnessing injustice, People often feel that something is wrong immediately before constructing arguments. The feeling is not random. It reflects a rapid evaluation based on embodied understanding. Cognitive science supports this through research on affective primacy and somatic markers, which show that emotional signals guide judgment before conscious deliberation. Importantly, this does not mean felt truth is a rational impulse. It is structured recognition occurring. Prior to explicit reasoning, the insight is precise. Reason follows. Recognition, it does not initiate it. The second teaching clarifies where this precognitive recognition occurs. Truth is not encountered by the intellect alone. It is registered by the whole being, including the body and emotional systems. Ibn Arabi consistently emphasizes that knowing is not confined to abstract thought. The body participates in recognition. Neuroscience provides a compelling parallel through the somatic marker hypothesis, which shows that bodily signals play a crucial role in decision-making. These signals integrate past experience, emotional learning, and contextual awareness. Psychologically, emotional regulation depends on sensitivity to internal signals. Ignoring them leads to confusion and dysregulation. Many people report situations where a decision felt wrong despite logical justification. Later reflection often confirms that the initial feeling carried important information. This does not elevate emotion above reason. It situates emotion as an early carrier of truth. The body registers coherence or incoherence faster than language can describe it. The insight is clear. Truth is embodied before it is articulated. A common phenomenological observation supports Ibn Arabi's view. People frequently understand why something was true only after events unfold. Insight arrives late, even though recognition was present earlier. Ibn Arabi explains this by distinguishing disclosure from interpretation. Truth discloses itself first. Interpretation follows. Thought is not the first contact with truth. It is a reflective response. Cognitive science aligns with this observation. Research shows that conscious reasoning is often retrospective. The brain constructs explanations after decisions or perceptions have already occurred. This is not a flaw. It is how cognition organizes experience. It is important to clarify what this does not mean. This is not anti-intellectualism. It is a statement about temporal ordering. Thought arrives later because its function is integration and communication. The implication is significant. Delayed understanding does not mean absence of truth. Knowing often catches up to what was already recognized. Ibn Arabi extends this epistemology to theology with consistency. Divine truth, in his framework, is not inferred from premises. It is present as immediate disclosure. Conceptually, this means that God is known through presence, before doctrine, belief systems, theological formulations, and rituals organize and preserve recognition, but they do not initiate it. A modern parallel helps clarify this logic. Perception precedes scientific explanation. One experiences gravity before understanding physics. The explanation refines understanding but does not create the phenomenon. Psychologically, many report spiritual certainty before adopting formal belief systems. Conviction precedes conceptual alignment. This does not make doctrine irrelevant. It places it in sequence. The insight is direct. The deepest truths are encountered, not concluded. Explanation follows encounter. If felt truth is foundational, why is it often dismissed? The paradox lies in articulation. What is most immediate is often hardest to justify verbally. Cognitive science explains this through limits of verbalization and working memory. Language compresses experience. Not everything that is recognized can be easily translated into words. The intellect often resists what it did not produce itself. Ibn Arabi's subtle claim is that the intellect prefers conclusions it can claim ownership over. Recognition challenges this preference because it arrives uninvited. A misconception must be clarified. Felt truth is not subjective fantasy. It is preconceptual recognition. Truth does not become real by being explained. Explanation stabilizes what is already real. The key insight is that justification is not the source of truth, it is its expression. This framework has practical implications for modern life. The first shift is cognitive. Felt recognition should be treated as data, not as a final conclusion. It signals something worth examining, not something to obey blindly. Psychologically, this means balancing intuition with reflective validation. When intuition and reasoning are integrated, decision-making improves. Neuroscience shows that effective choices emerge when emotional and cognitive systems cooperate rather than compete. Emotionally, anxiety decreases when internal signals are trusted rather than suppressed. Over-analysis often reflects distrust of recognition. Integration restores confidence without abandoning rigor. Ibn Arabi's practical outcome is precise. Wisdom does not arise from domination of reason over feeling, nor from rejection of reason. It arises from alignment between recognition and understanding. The central conclusion follows clearly. Truth is felt before. It is known because recognition precedes explanation. What must be proven to exist was never first encountered through proof. Ibn Arabi's lasting contribution is a model of knowing in which reason serves truth rather than replacing it. Recognition discloses, knowledge organizes. Together they produce wisdom. Truth appears. Knowledge follows.